The psychoanalytical world doesn't have a uniform opinion on Bion's contributions. Many venerate him, others detest him, and a significant majority were initially indifferent to him. His concepts are quite controversial. Some are logical and easy to understand, while others instigate reflections, although they are at first difficult to assimilate because they are based on paradoxes and unusual language. All of this, added to his peculiar personality, contributes to such a plurality of views about him within the psychoanalytic community. For many, he is the third innovative genius of psychoanalysis, completing the gallery starting with Freud and Melanie Klein. But for others, at the opposite extreme, he has done nothing but reiterate the same concepts that were already well defined in a new and somehow weird outfit. But who was he? Wilfred Rupert Bion was born in India in 1897, the son of a British father who, as an English public service engineer, provided services to the Indian government at that moment. He lived in India until the age of 7 with his parents and sister and in the care of an elderly Indian nanny. This fact had a significant influence on his life and work, as Indian culture was permanently impressed on him and built up a good portion of his unconscious psychological culture. At the age of 19, Bion spontaneously joined the armed forces, where he stood out from the rest of the team due to his sporting and intellectual qualities. In the army, he joined the Armored Tank Battalion and served during World War I. For his performance, he was considered as a hero and decorated at Buckingham Palace with one of the most prestigious military medals. Bion reached the rank of captain. However, at the end of the war, he abandoned the army, going to Oxford University. He studied modern history, theology, philosophy. He obtained a degree in languages. He acquired knowledge of linguistics and the Greek and Latin languages. He was a lover of literature, and his writings are full of quotes from Shakespeare, among other important authors. When he came across a book by Freud, he was fascinated and decided to study medicine and become a psychoanalyst. He graduated as a doctor at the age of 33 and excelled in surgery, in addition to other respectable honorary degrees in medicine. In a short time, he launched himself into the practice of psychiatry, having been employed at the Tavistock Clinic in London, where he found a greater affinity with the group that was interested in psychoanalysis. He returned to the army in 1940, in the midst of World War II, and then went on to dedicate himself to the rehabilitation of RAF pilots. At the end of the war, Bion returned to work at Tavistock, dedicating himself to working with groups. This experience was of great relevance for Bion and the entire psychoanalytic community. In the next video, I will detail these contributions, which are still highly cited to this day. Bion was respected by his colleagues, and for many years he held important positions in the British Society of Psychoanalysis. He was director of the clinic and then president of it between 1962 and 1965. However, in the late 1960s, he showed visible signs of fatigue with most of his peers, who showed a certain indifference for his daring, for that time, psychoanalytic thinking. To better characterize his way of being and expose his ideas, it is worth remembering a distinctive remark. Bion once started a conference by saying, I'm curious to know what I'm going to say tonight. It might seem like a joke, but it wasn't. On the contrary, he demonstrated how he built his thinking freely and without the saturation of his mind with already established concepts. Thus, on more than one occasion, Bion insisted on positioning himself as a scientist, uncommitted to definitive truths, who postulated his right to modify his previous points of view and even the right to fall into possible contradictions. One of the main aspects pointed out as a change of theoretical perspective from Bion lies in the importance attributed to the analyst's mental life during the session. Bion believed that projective identifications, a concept that concerns the contents that the patient projects toward the analyst, are a normal phenomenon, a normal event in the minds of humans, are a sort of resource used since our birth to communicate what we need or feel. Here, as an example, we could think of the baby communicating with the mother. The baby who is, for example, in some pain, through projective identification communicates to the mother who, if connected with her baby, somehow intuits and discovers the meaning of the cry of the newborn at that moment. This mechanism, therefore, would happen in a reciprocal and crossed way between patient and analyst. Thus, the analyst's function would not be just, as it was in Freud's model, to make what is unconscious into conscious. In Bion's model, it would be the analyst building together with the patient a chain of new meanings for emotions that had not yet been experienced. There, in the meeting between the two, such emotions would arise to be experienced. Bion compares the analyst's position to the position of the officer on the battlefield, who experiences the same feelings of fear, anguish, terror as his soldiers, but who has the responsibility of command. So the officer or the analyst cannot reject such feelings, cannot reject to experience them. Otherwise, this would mean that he is absent. In other words, the permeability of the analyst's defenses in accepting the patient's projections, as well as his own, and transforming them into words and knowledge, are a determining part of the analytic process. In other words, what counts is not how much analyst and patient can do, but how much the pair can do together. In this sense, we can see that Bion emphasized less the contents of thought and more the importance of the mental apparatus necessary to be able to think. That is, the emphasis is no longer on the work on repression, as Freud postulated, or on the split, as Klein postulated, but towards the source, a place to think thoughts, more on the content than about the content. After Bion, it becomes necessary to consider the continuous interaction between analyst and patient when determining any and all developments and results of an analytical process.